In this video, we will discuss 4 important topics. First, we'll discuss the importance of science communication in general. Second, we'll talk about why science videos are an important part of science communication. Third, and the main meat of this video, we'll provide guidance on helping students produce science videos for their STEM classes. And finally, we'll go over some tips for creating better video projects to help your students perform to their best in your class. Science communication refers to the practice of conveying scientific information and concepts to a non-expert audience in a clear, engaging, and accessible manner. This includes everything from explaining research findings and scientific principles to discussing the implications of science on society, policy, and daily life. Science communication is important for a number of reasons. Science communication helps bridge the gap between experts and the general public by translating complex scientific concepts into language that is easy to understand. This is crucial in a world where scientific advancements and challenges directly impact people's lives. By providing accurate, evidence-based information, science communication combats the spread of misinformation and misconceptions, which can be especially dangerous in areas like public health and environmental policy. Next, it can empower informed decision-making. When people understand the science behind issues like nutrition, medicine, or environmental sustainability, they are better equipped to make informed choices about their own health, lifestyle, and consumption habits. In addition to personal choices, there's also public policy. Informed citizens are more likely to support evidence-based policies and initiatives. Effective science communication helps the public understand why certain policies are necessary, fostering greater support for science-driven decision-making. It also helps to enhance public engagement with science. Science communication can spark curiosity and interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This is particularly important for encouraging young people to pursue careers in these fields, ensuring a future workforce equipped to tackle global challenges. It can also encourage dialogue. By making science more accessible, communication fosters public dialogue about scientific issues. This dialogue can lead to greater community involvement in science-related topics, such as climate change, biodiversity, or public health. It can also help foster a trust in science. Open and clear communication about scientific methods, uncertainties, and results builds public trust in science. When people understand how science works, including its limitations and the process of scientific inquiry, they are more likely to trust scientific consensus. In an era where skepticism about science is on the rise, effective communication helps reinforce the credibility of scientific institutions and the importance of evidence-based knowledge. It can also help support social change and innovation. Science communication plays a key role in advocating for science-based solutions to global problems like climate change, pandemics, and technological innovation. By raising awareness and understanding, it mobilizes public support for necessary changes. It can also encourage responsible innovation. Communicating the ethical and societal implications of new technologies and scientific discoveries helps ensure that innovation is pursued responsibly and with public input. And finally, it can have a big impact on culture and scientific literacy. Integrating science into culture is very important. Effective science communication can help integrate science into the broader culture, making it a part of everyday conversation and thought. This leads to a society that values scientific literacy and is better prepared to engage with scientific issues. By ensuring that scientific knowledge is accessible to everyone, regardless of background or education level, Science communication promotes equality and inclusiveness in the dissemination of knowledge. Science communication is essential for building a society that understands values and applies scientific knowledge. It empowers individuals to make informed decisions, supports public policy, fosters trust in science, and drives social change. In a world increasingly shaped by scientific and technological advancements, effective communication is crucial for ensuring these developments benefit everyone. Videos in particular have become a powerful tool for science communicators to engage audiences and effectively convey complex scientific information. Here are some of the reasons. One is visual learning. Videos allow for the visual representation of abstract concepts, making them easier to grasp. Complex processes can be demonstrated step by step, providing a clear understanding. Second is engagement and attention. Videos are inherently engaging, capturing viewers' attention more effectively than just text. Visual storytelling can evoke emotions, making the content more relatable and memorable. A third reason videos are important for scientific communication is accessibility. Videos can cater to different learning styles, including visual learners. Videos really can make your content more accessible. Subtitles and translations can make science accessible to a global audience. Another reason is the ability to share. There's a lot of viral potential because engaging videos are easily shared on social media, potentially expanding their reach. Videos can be distributed across multiple platforms, increasing their visibility. In the last several years, there has been a huge increase in platform diversity, and videos are one of the easiest ways to take advantage of this. Videos can also foster a sense of community and allow for direct interaction with scientists. They can demystify science and make it more accessible to everyone. This has an important democratizing effect. And finally, videos help with documentation. Videos can capture experiments, fieldwork, and research processes in a visual record. They can be used to share data and findings with the scientific community. In some cases, they can replace someone's inability to attend a scientific conference with their ability to have access to that information and presentation anywhere in the world. In the same way, videos created by your students help them to spread their own ideas around the planet. Beyond just the utility of videos in general, science videos on social media play a crucial role in driving social change by making scientific knowledge accessible, engaging, and actionable for a broad audience. Here are some reasons they can be so useful. First is widespread reach. Social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok make science accessible to millions, breaking down geographic, economic, and educational barriers. This democratization of knowledge allows people from all walks of life to engage with scientific content. It also helps visual learners. Videos are a powerful medium for explaining complex scientific concepts in a simple visual way. This enhances understanding and retention, making science more relatable and less intimidating in the more casual environment of social media, as opposed to the formal environment of classroom instruction. Social media can also help with raising awareness. Science videos can effectively raise awareness about pressing global issues such as climate change, public health, and sustainability. By presenting data and scientific facts in a compelling way, these videos can influence public opinion and inspire action. They are also key to addressing education and misinformation. Social media is rife with misinformation. Science videos can counteract false narratives by providing accurate, evidence-based information, helping to inform the public and guide better decision-making. Social media also provides a particularly attractive platform for inspiring action or advocacy. When viewers understand the science behind issues like pollution, disease prevention, or renewable energy, they are more likely to take informed action. This can range from changing personal habits to advocating for policy changes. Science videos often spark discussions, leading to the formation of online communities that advocate for social change. These communities can mobilize quickly around causes, amplifying their impact. They can also promote scientific literacy by encouraging critical thinking. Regular exposure to science content encourages critical thinking and a better understanding of the scientific method. This is essential for a well-informed society that can engage with complex issues and contribute to meaningful discussions. Science videos on social media can ignite curiosity and inspire the next generation of scientists, engineers, and innovators. This is particularly important in promoting diversity in STEM fields by showing that science is for everyone. And finally, social media platforms are a great place to help drive policy change because they can influence decision makers. Well-made science videos can catch the attention of policymakers and influencers, bringing scientific evidence into the policymaking process. By making scientific insights clear and compelling, these videos can help shape policies that address societal changes. By making science engaging and accessible, these videos empower individuals and communities to make informed decisions and advocate for a better future. Now that we've discussed why it's important for your students to be able to create these kinds of compelling videos in their STEM subjects, let's take a look at the actual process of creating videos. We'll walk through each of the steps to help you prepare your students to participate in the global conversation about science that's happening online by being able to create compelling, STEM-oriented videos from beginning to end. We'll talk about preparing to construct a video. Then we'll talk about scripting the video. Then we'll talk about physically creating the video. We'll talk about editing the components of the video. And finally, we'll talk about how to publish your video. In the next few sections of this video, we will refer to a helpful tool called the C matrix. This is a simple visual that will help us compare three competing interests. When looking at different tools or techniques that are available to choose from, the matrix will allow you to quickly visualize how the cost, capability, and complexities of each tool or approach might impact your decision to use them. As you can see in this first example, matrix, three options are being compared. Option A is relatively low on cost and capability, and the green color indicates it's one of the less complex or difficult tools to use. B costs a little bit more and is a little more capable. However, the yellow coloring indicates it is a little more complex to use. Finally, option C is probably a very powerful and industry-leading tool. It has a high cost to go along with its high capability, but it is also probably difficult for most people to learn. However, just because something costs more money doesn't mean it's necessarily better. Let's take a look at another example. In this example of the C matrix, you can see that option A costs more money, but is reasonably capable, probably having features that you and your students would need, while also being easy to learn and use. If you have some money to spend, this tool will help you save time and focus on creating content, rather than learning software. Option C is low cost and high capability, which sounds great, but the red color indicates it probably has a steep learning curve or technical requirements. We will use the C matrix whenever we need to compare options for you and your students as you work on developing these science videos. Here are some important items to address first when helping your students create their science videos. To begin, you'll need to determine the purpose of your video. This is why you're making the video and what you hope will happen if people watch it. This could be that you want them to take a specific action, that you want them to learn something, or you want them to change their minds on a specific topic. In general, this should come from the teacher. Next, you want to address your target audience. Determine the target audience by whatever variable is relevant to you, your students, and the project. This could be the audience's age, background, their ability to act, or their geographic location. This might be determined by the teacher. It might be determined by the specific assignment or in collaboration with the students, depending on how you structure the activity in your course. Next, we need to set goals for what people should learn. In general, we want to pick fewer goals and have them be as specific as possible. This should be teacher-guided as appropriate, but student buy-in will be best if they have a lot of agency in this area. This is usually a good place to spend some time, doing a class activity. Next, we'll need a hook. This is something to help get people invested or help them to remember your content. Some examples of things that might serve as a good hook are parody, popular songs, a tagline, or a memorable phrase. This can be a fun group activity, or you might include looking for inspiration online. But once you have all of these ideas in place, it's time to do something very important, and that is storyboarding. Storyboarding is important for organizing your thoughts and preparing to create a video. Storyboarding helps you realize when things will and will not make sense, often saving a lot of time and problems down the road. There are different ways to go about storyboarding, but here are some tools that might be useful for you and your students when you create storyboards to help outline the major parts of your videos. The simplest and most obvious is pen and paper. It's free and easy, though you have to be in person to share, unless you want to use photographs or scanners. You probably have the materials in your classroom already. Miro Storyboard Maker, available in free and paid versions. This tool lets people work alone or collaborate to create diagram and image-based storyboards or documents. It's not specifically for videos, but it works for storyboarding. Lots of things, including videos. Storyboard that. While a paid version exists for schools and larger groups, there are good pricing options, including free trials for both teachers and students. This tool is much more graphical and helps you create comic book style images that help you with digital storytelling. This can sometimes make it more engaging for students. Another option is Canva. This is a general-purpose tool that has become very popular as a graphic design alternative. It can do a range of things, but built-in templates will help your students create basic storyboards on a number of school or personal computing devices, because it doesn't require any software to be downloaded and installed. There are a range of options at the free level, but the paid version probably isn't necessary for your purposes. It is affordable if necessary. There's also PowerPoint. This ubiquitous piece of software is likely already available in your school district. More recent online versions allow students to work without the program on their computer. If your school supports the option, there are some built-in templates, but the general-purpose graphics utility is helpful for students who already know the application from other projects, or who want to easily include animation or movement into their storyboards. With the storyboard complete, it's time to write a script. You may be tempted to skip this step because it sounds like too much effort for the students, but some time spent on this will save you a lot of time later. when you have all the equipment set up or on location and people are waiting around. Knowing exactly what you want to say will help a lot. Plus, a script allows you to practice ahead of time and spend that time fine-tuning your message without pressures of being on camera. Be sure to have a strong organization that includes the following. A clear structure. In general, you can follow the same guidelines as when you write a paper. So whatever you've been telling your students about their papers probably applies here too. At the start, have a clear introduction that previews your main points. The main body of your video should have clear, specific main points. Like in a paper, a direct call to action is needed, so viewers know what you want from them. There are different ways of approaching this, but as with other parts of the script, you can use the same strategies your students have been learning from writing papers. Near the end, recap your main points again, so that people will remember them. And be sure to have a strong closing that either repeats or references the hook you developed in the preparation phase. The ending is often one of the things viewers remember most in a good video. While a script provides a solid foundation for a video, there are instances when deviating or improvising can add spontaneity or authenticity. Unexpected events. If something unexpected happens during filming, like a funny interruption or a surprising occurrence, embracing the moment can create genuine and engaging content. It can also help build rapport. For interview-style videos, allowing for natural conversation can create a more authentic connection between the interviewer and the subject. Spontaneous ideas are also possible. If a brilliant idea strikes during filming, consider incorporating it if it aligns with the overall message and doesn't require too many changes to your script. It can also help with overcoming challenges. If you encounter technical difficulties or unexpected obstacles, improvising a solution or making light of the situation can sometimes prevent awkwardness. And finally, it allows for experimenting. In certain cases, improvising can help test different approaches or find the right tone for the video. While spontaneity can be valuable, a well-structured script provides a strong foundation for a successful video, including accuracy, clarity, and time savings. Having that script ready, even if you allow some improvising, is good because, while improvising can be beneficial, it's essential to maintain control and ensure the video stays on track. As with storyboarding, there are a number of tools you might use when it comes to scripting. As before, one simple tool is handwriting. In a class of students, depending on age, this might be the most efficient way of getting a draft together quickly, especially if you're working in teams. However, it makes editing a bit harder and revisions will be slow. A word processor like Microsoft Word can also be great. Depending on age, your students are probably already used to this standard tool for writing because of spell check and basic formatting tools. It can be great for getting out drafts quickly from a single person, but it's not as convenient for collaborating. If your school provides Google Docs to students, it is a great way to allow them to collaborate from any machine without needing software installed. In a simplified word processor, middle and high school students are probably already comfortable using this. Scrivener is a tool that is particularly good at helping to format scripts and managing longer ones where you want to focus on just one part at a time to later assemble into a whole video. It does require software be downloaded and installed, which can be an issue for schools. There is teacher and student pricing, but it is not free. Another option is Trelby. This is a free program for writing scripts and related documents. It doesn't focus as much on collaboration or advanced formatting features, but it has everything students would need for a class project. It does require a program be downloaded and installed onto each computer. There's also Final Draft. This is one of the programs professionals use. It is likely overkill for teachers and students who just want to make videos as part of a subject course. But if you are teaching filmmaking or want students to get an authentic experience, this is one of the primary tools used in Hollywood. With a script in hand, it's time to start actually creating your videos. As we cover how to create your video content, the following topics are important too. Location, meaning where you're going to actually go and shoot your video. Resolution, the quality of the video you'll create. What cameras you're going to use. How you'll record audio. How you will address lighting. And whether or not to employ technology, like the green screen. Choosing the right location for your science video is crucial for effectively conveying your message. Here are some key factors to consider. One is relevance to the topic. Consider natural environments for ecology, biology, or geology topics. Consider forests, beaches, or mountains. You don't have to go very far to do this. In some cases, if you want to talk about a tree, you just need to walk onto the playground behind your school. Laboratories for chemistry, physics, or biology experiments. A lab setting can be essential. It doesn't have to be a professional one. Any of your chemistry classes will do. There's also urban settings for topics related to environmental science or human impact. Cities or industrial areas might be suitable. You may only have to walk a couple of blocks to get to a location that will look great on film. There's also visual appeal to consider. For one, there's backgrounds. Choose locations with visually interesting backgrounds that complement your content. You'll also want to consider natural light and available artificial lighting to ensure that there's a good video quality. And finally, you'll want to minimize noise pollution by selecting locations with minimal background noise. Sometimes this can be addressed by how you handle your audio, but if you're going to be using a low-tech approach to that, you're going to need an environment that's pretty quiet. Some practical considerations. One is accessibility. Ensure the location is easily accessible for your equipment and your crew. You'd be amazed how often you pick a great location only to realize that it's almost impossible to get your equipment there. In some cases, though it's rare, you might need permits to film in certain locations. Double check with your local government to see if this is necessary. And of course, safety. Always prioritize the safety of your team and any participants when making a video. Nothing you can record is worth hurting one of your students or yourself. There's also the audience to consider. What is your target audience? Consider the age and interests of your audience when selecting locations. In some cases, you might want a location they're familiar with so that you can create a connection. In other situations, you might want a location they've never seen before because it will be more visually, mentally engaging. Choose locations that will captivate your audience and make the content relatable. When picking locations, budget is a concern. Consider the costs of renting or accessing a particular location. If you're using a location on your own school campus, this probably isn't a concern. And if you're going to be shooting in the middle of a park somewhere, it also probably won't cost you any money. But there are occasions where the perfect shot for your video is on private property or controlled by an organization whose permission you'll need and perhaps will ask for financial compensation for you to shoot there. There's also travel expenses, factoring transportation and accommodation costs. If you're filming on location, let's take a look at some of the different options you have for choosing locations. For example, if you were teaching about ecology, a local park or forest for exploring biodiversity might be a good choice. It'll be cost-effective. And while it doesn't provide much capability in and of itself, it'll be incredibly easy to get there and cost very little. If you were explaining climate change, a glacier or coastal area would really help visualize the impact. Cost of getting your equipment and people there is higher, but the capabilities of this location are also improved over just a local park. But obviously, it can be a complex issue, getting you and your students to a place far away from your school If you're demonstrating chemical reactions, a well-equipped laboratory for safety and precision can really help out. It doesn't have to be fancy. You'd be amazed what looks good on film, even though in real life, it's not that special. You might have what you need right in your own school, but if not, look to other schools within your own district so that it won't cost you anything. If you were teaching about something like astronomy, then a planetarium or observatory for stargazing might be good. A good camera should be able to see what is projected on the inside of a planetarium, or the stars in the real night sky. Generic spaces are sometimes available at your own school. A cafeteria or gymnasium can be good if you need a large space to demonstrate something at scale. A classroom can work if you can control it by keeping it quiet and other people out of frame. Remember, sometimes a simple and controlled environment, like a studio or a student's home, can be the best option. Now that you have your locations picked out, it's time to actually start filming. You will often hear people talk about the resolution of a video. Technically, what they are referring to are the dimensions of the video, that is its size. Resolution is something else that isn't important for our purposes to talk about right now. But just know that when software refers to resolution, they are talking about the dimensions of your video, measured in pixels. Modern smartphones come in a range of screen sizes, but for the purposes of video, it's almost always best to stick with one of the standard sizes, usually referred to as high definition or HD. Those included 720p, a lower resolution, suitable for quick sharing on social media, or when bandwidth is limited. In some cases, this will also allow your video editing software to run faster or work better on mobile devices. This generally looks the worst on modern phones and large televisions. It's acceptable if necessary, but it's not ideal. A second option is what's referred to as 1080p or Full HD. This is a widely supported standard that offers a good balance of quality and file size. This is currently the most common video size in the United States and works well on mobile devices and nearly all televisions. This is the safest choice for a good-looking video and compatibility with the most software. A third option is what's often referred to as 4K or ultra-high definition. This offers the best image quality, but requires more storage and processing power. This is best for large screens or when extreme detail is crucial. This is becoming more common on mobile devices, but is only safe if you know for sure the device can handle it, or is a high-quality television. If you are putting the video on YouTube, you can upload at this size, but other social media platforms may not allow it. With resolution addressed, it's time to pick a camera so you can shoot your video. Smartphones are a versatile and accessible filming tool that are readily available. They seem like the obvious choice because they are everywhere, and your students may even have their own right there in class. But there are some things to consider before jumping to the obvious. First, be sure to clean the lens with a microfiber cloth as often as you can. Smudges can affect video quality a lot, and it is often only apparent after you put the videos onto a computer for editing or a larger screen for viewing. You should also try and clean off the touchscreen part of your smartphone as often as you can. Mobile devices like smartphones should be in protective cases to help protect their screens and lenses. The last thing you want is to be the person who drops a student's cell phone and breaks it. Next, stabilization is crucial. Holding the phone with your hands might not seem like a big deal since it's what you and your students are used to. However, a camera shaking on a large screen can be disorienting, and it can make editing much more difficult. If you have to use your hands, try using both hands and holding the camera at eye level, so you are looking straight at the screen instead of down at it. Ideally, even a phone or tablet should be mounted on a tripod. A large one, like you see photographers use, can be quite helpful, but even a small portable tripod can dramatically improve video stability. These are inexpensive and only require a small mount to hold the phone and screw onto the tripod. If you can't locate a tripod or stand, look for any stable platform, like a book, box desk, or music stand, that will hold the device steady while you film. Many smartphones have built-in image stabilization features for the kind of science videos you will be making. These features are great, and you should go into the settings on your device to ensure that stabilization is enabled. Even if you haven't done it before, you should experiment with the settings on your smartphones. Your device will have a range of settings, including zoom, special shooting modes, auto and manual focus, exposure and speed. Play with your camera settings to find the best option for your videos. You might even find something fun, like filters, or slow motion, or hyper motion recording modes. Finally, be sure that you're shooting in the correct resolution. Choose the correct resolution based on the use of your video content, device capability, and video file size. This is a setting you can change on your smartphone or tablet, but you'll probably have to manually go in and set it. There are a number of other cameras beyond a smartphone you can use with your students when making your science videos. We will lump them into these three: affordable dedicated cameras, action cameras, and/or mirrorless cameras. We've already discussed your smartphone or tablet and how to use it. So let's compare that to the cost, capability, and complexity of these other options. Affordable video cameras. Dedicated video cameras come in a range of styles and capabilities, starting at around $100. These feature optical zooms, better low-light performance, and manual controls to help get the exact shot you're looking for. These are typically a little better than the quality of video you can get in a modern smartphone. However, these cameras only perform one function, compared to the greater overall utility of smartphones. These dedicated cameras cost money, can be larger and heavier than smartphones, and with a limited number available to the class, students will have to share a limited resource, as well as learn their controls. There's also what we refer to as action cameras. Probably the best-known brand of action camera is a GoPro. However, there are plenty of other brands that make cameras that are built to be sturdier if dropped, used underwater, or left in a hot sun. Some drawbacks to action cameras are that less expensive ones can have lower video quality or limited settings, a narrow field of view, or have controls that are less intuitive to students. Finally, there are DSLR or mirrorless cameras. A digital, single-lens reflex camera or DSLR is the best bet for high-quality video capture. While there are higher-quality television and cinema production devices, they are thousands of dollars and beyond the scope of classroom projects. These cameras are the most expensive type covered in this video, but they offer the best image quality, interchangeable lenses, advanced manual controls, and professional-looking results. While the biggest drawback is cost, some teachers or students may already own a DSLR camera. Some schools have them as part of photography or multimedia classes. Even if one is available for your project, there are issues to consider. The controls, while powerful, can be confusing for students or teachers new to using the devices. They break easily when dropped, sometimes require additional components like lenses and flashes, and cannot be used as part of the video editing and sharing process. While they produce great video, they are best reserved for older students, probably in high school. Regardless of the type of camera you use, there are some considerations when it comes to shooting your content. The first is framing. In general, you want the main subject of your shot to be in the middle of the screen. But be careful when considering what the subject actually is. If you want to show a science experiment, is the subject of your scene the person doing the experiment, or the chemical reaction in the flask? If one person is interviewing another, you might consider framing each of them a third of the screen apart, or you might focus just on the person answering the questions. Pay attention to what's in the background and avoid clutter. Anything that is more colorful, interesting, or moving can draw attention away from your intended subject. Part of dealing with this is aiming the camera, but part of this is also how you set up the area before even starting the camera. Next is a concept called the rule of thirds. Divide your frame into 9 equal parts and place your subject along the lines or at their intersections. In general, the subject of your video should be in the middle, but if that's not possible, or you're trying to show more than one thing at a time, then you want to place individual subjects in their own columns or rows, depending on the orientation of your camera. Finally, there's the field of view. The field of view is how wide the camera can see. When you zoom in, you have a narrow field of view because you see less. You just see it up closer. When you zoom out, you have a wider field of view because you can see more of the scene. Consider changing your field of view as appropriate throughout the scene. The same zoom on all shots can be boring. Plus, it can make setting up the shots more difficult. Zoom in to highlight details of a scientific concept, like a chemical reaction, an ant, or using a computer, or emotions on a person's face. A wider view is great for taking in a landscape or sharing the enormity of the situation. High-quality audio is just as important as high-quality video for engaging viewers. The easiest approach is to use the microphone built into your camera and then adjust the volume in your video editor. However, that almost never generates a decent quality video. It may seem daunting at first, but taking the time to record and use audio correctly can dramatically enhance your students' videos. Here are some of the best practices to consider. Microphone accessories can be used to increase the quality of your audio, especially when attached to dedicated video cameras. A lavalier, also known as a lapel microphone, is ideal for hands-free operation, especially when demonstrating experiments. This clips directly to a person's clothing, and either through a wire or wirelessly, send the audio back to the camera. A shotgun microphone is great for capturing audio from a distance, and it's often used for interviews or narration. This allows the camera to be further away from the person speaking and still be heard. It also helps to avoid background noise. Finally, a boom microphone provides flexibility in positioning. However, it also requires a boom pole operator, and this can take extra work and is not something a lot of people know how to do without training. Other aspects to consider about audio include microphone placement. Place the microphones as close to the sound source as possible without causing any interference. You can use a pop filter to reduce explosive sounds like P and B. Pop filters are inexpensive and clip onto microphones. For outdoor shooting, a windscreen can reduce wind noise. They come in different styles, but these are things that go on your microphone in order to cut down wind. This is incredibly useful when shooting outdoors on location. When it comes to a recording environment, you should choose a quiet space in order to minimize background noise as much as possible. If possible, use sound-absorbing materials to reduce echoes. In your school, if you have music rooms that have sound-absorbing materials on the wall, this can be an excellent place to record audio. Use headphones to check audio levels and quality during recordings, and you might need to re-record audio when shooting outside or in loud environments, and then insert the audio back into the video when editing. This is called dubbing. When addressing audio levels, you should ensure that levels are high enough to be heard easily, but do not become distorted. And gain staging refers to properly adjusting the gain on your recording device. You can think of the gain as essentially the volume of the recording. It's better to record it at high gain originally than to try and crank up the volume later in your editing software. Some additional tips to consider when it comes to recording audio. Consider using multiple microphones for different sound sources. Then you can mix the audio together when you edit them in your software. Ensure that audio and video are synchronized during editing. If you add in audio or dub audio, make sure that it lines up correctly with your video. Finally, test your audio setup before recording in order to identify any potential issues. There's nothing more infuriating than doing a great job recording the video part and then realizing that your audio isn't usable. By following these guidelines, you can significantly enhance the audio quality of your science videos, making them more engaging and informative for your audience. Proper lighting is crucial for creating high-quality science videos. Every location and video setup will be unique, but there are some key principles to keep in mind, because bad lighting is difficult to fix later when you are editing. First off, let's understand the basics. There's 3 kinds of light in a basic setup. First is the key light. This is the primary light source that illuminates your subject. It's typically the brightest light. Next is the fill light. This softens shadows created by the key light. The fill light is often approximately half as bright as the key light and comes in at a different angle. Finally, there's a backlight. This separates the subject from the background, which gives a much higher quality field of depth. When looking at your video recording, you can see in the image here that the key light is at 100%, at an angle to the camera. The fill light is at a complementary angle, a little over 90 degrees rotated from the key light, and the backlight should be pretty dim. And it's only there to create that sense of disruption between the subject and the background. While it might be difficult for you and your students to set up all 3 lights, you might find that you only need some of them. For example, it could be that the overhead lights in the room serve as the key light, and all you really need is a backlight to help separate somebody from the wall. Play with these different setups, and you'll be sure to find a version that works for you. There is a difference between natural light and artificial light. For natural light, utilize soft, diffused, natural light. When possible, avoid harsh sunlight or shadows. Even when shooting on location, most film crews will block the sunlight and replace it with their own lighting. A full set of lighting equipment can be expensive, but just replacing the sun with one key light and using the natural light around the subject as fill light can be an easy way to get great-looking video. When it comes to artificial light, if you are going to use your own artificial light, which is common, try to use LED lights, which can be controlled in terms of both brightness and warmth. These kinds of lights have become common and inexpensive because of their popularity with social media content creators. Finally, diffusers can soften harsh light sources. These let some of the light through or bounce the light so it hits indirectly. While you can purchase products made specifically for this, you can use things you already have, like white sheets or umbrellas. Some specific considerations for your science videos. When it comes to demonstrations, ensure clear visibility of the object or experiment. Use backlighting to highlight details. You may have to decide whether it is more important to better light an object or the person explaining it. In laboratory settings, avoid glare on glassware and equipment. Use controlled lighting to prevent unwanted reflections. You may find that turning off the overhead lights and turning on some other lights that you control directly is the best way to go. And when it comes to outdoor shoot, consider the time of day for optimal lighting conditions. Use reflectors or diffusers to balance shadows. The best time of day for creating a recording may not be the time you would naturally assume. It's best to scout your locations in advance to see what the light looks like at various times. Some additional tips when it comes to lighting. One is the concept of white balance. Correctly adjust your camera's white balance to match the lighting conditions. How you do this and how sensitive the controls are will depend on the particular camera you are using, but most modern devices allow at least some control over the white balance. Ensure proper exposure to avoid overexposed or underexposed footage. The best way to address this is to take some test videos at different settings and see what you like best. By following these guidelines, you can create well-lit science videos that effectively convey your message to your audience. While advanced special effects are beyond the scope of this video, one important skill can bring your video to life and allow your students to get creative with how they demonstrate STEM concepts. A green screen is a large piece of fabric or paper that is uniformly green. It is used in video production to replace the background of a subject with another image or video. This technique is called chroma keying. You can use a strong blue color instead. The important thing is to pick a color that you will not have in your video, such as your clothes or objects on display. Green screens are often used in science videos to create interesting and engaging visuals. For example, a green screen can be used to place a student in a virtual laboratory, or to show a student conducting an experiment in a different location. You place an object on a green background, and then when editing, you will cut that object out and place it on a different background image or video. Here are some tips for creating and using a green screen. Choose a green screen that is the right size for your subject. It needs to be bigger than the person or object you want to cut out of the video. If any part of the object or person extends out past the green screen background, it will make using the green screen effect quite difficult. When editing, make sure the green screen is evenly litness. When you use the computer to cut out your object, it will use the green color. If your green background is lit differently in different parts, the computer will think it isn't green. For example, if the background is very bright in the corner, the computer might think it is white instead of green. Use a tripod to keep your camera steady. The computer will need to keep track of your green background, and this will be hard if the green screen is moving around. Use video editing software to remove the green screen and replace it with your desired background. More about this will be covered in the video editing section later on. There are many creative ways to use green screen effects. Consider some of these in your students' projects. Have a student appear on a photo of the surface of the moon for an astronomy project. Replace a real beaker from a chemistry set with a video of one to safely show chemical reactions to let your student do for real while filming. If you can't get your students to a specific filming location, that would be good for their video. You can go there and film a few minutes of footage, and then bring it back to your classroom and green screen your students into the footage. This can be helpful in saving money, scheduling, or maintaining safety. Editing science videos on a computer can be a rewarding experience that enhances both the educational value and the presentation quality of the content. Here are some key concepts for students who want to edit their science videos. First off, the timeline. There are different methods of editing video, but any software you use with your students will be based on a timeline approach. The timeline contains all the clips, text, audio, and effects in your video. You place each item on the timeline, and they play one after another. In order to connect clips together, you can use transitions. Some software uses layers where you can place one item on top of another. An example of this is a small image on top of a full-screen image of your student, so it looks like a news broadcast with an image about the story next to the anchor. Clips. These are the images and video segments you shot and want to put together into a video. If you are using software on a computer, then these clips are the files you will import from your cameras. Trimming. Once you have the clips in your project, you can then cut them down to just the specific parts you need. For example, a student may have done more than one take while recording. Trimming is where you remove the takes you don't want. Trimming can also be used to change the pacing of the video. How much quiet video you have before and after someone speaks can be adjusted by trimming the video. Clip. Transitions. When you put two clips next to each other on the timeline, you have two options. One is the video can simply jump directly to the next clip in what we call a cut, sometimes referred to as a jump cut or smash cut, depending on how you are using it in your storytelling. The other option is to have a transition from one clip to the next, using something like a fade or dissolving effect. Modern video editing software comes with a range of transition types built in. Be consistent when choosing what type to use, and use ones that fit with the style and energy of your video. Text overlays. Text can be placed on the screen either by itself or laid-over clips. When using text, consider a couple of things. First, if your video is conveying specific and detailed information, then more text is appropriate. But if your video is shorter and more about people, emotion, or engaging interest, then limit the use of text to just keywords, phrases, or numbers that accent and stress things being said in the video. Finally, chroma key. If you shoot green screen footage, then chroma key is how you go about using it in your video project. The software may call it green screen, chroma key, or simply keying, regardless of what they call it. This requires you place the green screen clip on a top layer. Over the background, you want the subject to show up on in a lower layer. Then you use the chroma key tool to select the specific green color in your clip. That is the green screen background. The software removes the background and your object or person is left right on top of the background, as if they were there when you filmed it. Editing is best performed with planning and organization. Start by sticking to your plans. Before you start editing, map out the flow of your video by using your storyboard and script. Decide on the key points and how you will transition between them. Make sure you have all the necessary footage, images, and graphics before you begin editing. This can include experiment, footage, diagrams, or any animations you may have created. Next, you need to organize your media. Label your files. Keep your media files organized in folders and name them appropriately. This makes it easier to find specific clips or images during editing. Use bins or collections. Most editing software allows you to create these bins, folders, or collections within your project. Use them to group related clips such as raw footage, audio files, and graphics based on related topics, or which parts will go together in the final video. Use transitions and effects sparingly. Use simple transitions like cuts and fades to keep the video flow smooth. Avoid overusing flashy transitions, as they can distract from the content. If your software allows, you can add simple effects or animations to highlight important points, but use them sparingly. Finally, you should review and refine. Watch your video multiple times, all the way through, to catch any mistakes or areas for improvement. You should also try and get feedback. Have students show their projects while in progress to fellow students, yourself, or even their parents. Feedback while working on a video can be incredibly helpful. Others might spot issues you or the students miss, or they may suggest improvements. There are a number of options for video editing. It's important to choose the right software. Let's take a look at them and see which is most appropriate for your class. If you are working exclusively on smartphone or tablets, there are options, but they are all limited. Android devices, especially Samsung phones and tablets, ship with a very simple video editor built in, which is free and lets you combine clips, text, and music into a finished video. Though the tool isn't that powerful, overall, iPhone and iPad devices do not necessarily have a video editor by default, but you can install iMovie for free. While not as capable as its desktop computer counterpart, it does allow for basic editing, in some ways a bit more capable than what you find on Android devices. If you have access to install apps on a smartphone or tablet, there are third-party apps. Some cost money and some are free. InShot is available on Android and Apple devices, though the two versions are not identical. This app contains more features and is more powerful than the built-in apps, but it shares data about your work, shows advertising, and includes the option to purchase upgrades with additional features. This may be an issue for using the software with younger students. Older students, more savvy with the app ecosystem, will understand this better. The purchases are optional, but may be required to do much more than the standard editing. KineMaster is also available on Android and Apple devices with the same potential drawbacks of purchases and advertising. This app may be a bit simpler to use, but is also focused more on effects and creativity than on powerful editing features. KineMaster is better at making a simpler, more artistic video, while InShot is probably better at the actual editing of complicated projects with more clips and other components. There are also a number of other options, which are programs that you install onto a desktop computer. Windows recently changed its default built-in video editor to one called Clipchamp. It has all the basic tools needed to connect a number of clips together and output a finished video. It is not particularly advanced, but it is easy to use and free. Apple computers have long used the desktop version of iMovie as their free video editing tool. More capable than Clipchamp, the program can be a bit more complicated, but is still designed for middle school students to use, without much training. Students who grew up using Apple products will likely appreciate that it works the same way as other programs they are used to. This is one of the de facto standard free video programs. Another simple tool is Adobe Express, which is the simplified version of Adobe's video tools. While it can typically be used for free by students and teachers, or included in your school's Adobe software license, it uses an Adobe account, which students likely do not have, nor is it necessarily good to require of them for privacy reasons. The tool works on Windows and Mac machines, and has all the basic tools you would need for typical classroom videos. This is the best option if you want something free on Windows computers. That is better than Clipchamp. But don't mind connecting to Adobe's ecosystem. Canva, the online graphics program, does support video editing, but this is generally not recommended. There are not many advanced features, limited output options, and it requires students to have an account to use it. Their model is to upsell users, which in this case are your students. Students may already be comfortable using this tool because of its more commonly used graphic design features. But you should avoid this as your standard video editor. If you're looking for more capable and configurable video editors, the hands-down industry leaders in the home, small business and education spaces are Adobe, Premiere Pro, Final Cut, and DaVinci Resolve. These tools are far more sophisticated, but have definite learning curves. Final Cut Pro is only available on Mac machines, but the others are available on Windows and Mac. While there is a free version of DaVinci Resolve, this tool is most appropriate if your school can afford to pay for their studio version. With that in mind, all three options cost more than can reasonably be expected of your students. Your school may already have Final Cut Pro if they support a lot of Apple computers, and it may already have Adobe Premiere Pro if they have an Adobe Creative Suite subscription. Because of how they are priced, getting a single installation of Adobe Premiere Pro can be difficult for public schools and individual students. The bottom line, these tools are for advanced video projects where the school has money to invest in the software, and you have time to invest in teaching your students how to use them. Editing and using audio effectively in science videos can greatly enhance viewer engagement. Understanding. Here are some things to address in your project. Prioritize clear narration. Ensure any voiceover or narration in your video is clear, well-paced, and easy to understand. Avoid using overly technical jargon unless absolutely necessary, and explain complex terms. Try and speak at a moderate pace with deliberate pauses to let information sink in, and use a high-quality microphone to avoid background noise and ensure crisp, clear audio. The microphone on a smartphone or tablet probably isn't very good. Consider a cheap external microphone for the desktop computer where you will be editing the video. Use your background music wisely. Choose music that complements the tone of the video and doesn't distract from the narration. Soft, ambient tracks work well for science videos. Keep the background music volume low enough to ensure the narration is always clear. Fade music in and out gently, especially around important parts. And keep the narration, background music, and sound effects at consistent levels throughout the video. Avoid having background music overpower the narration. The tools built into your video editing software should be able to help you with this. Ensure smooth transitions between audio segments. Use what are called crossfades between music tracks or sound effects to avoid jarring cuts. Most of the video editing software, outlined earlier, will do some version of this, but the advanced programs are the best at it. When possible, edit out any unnecessary pauses or filler words in the narration to maintain a steady flow of information. Try your best to synchronize narration closely with the visuals on the screen, such as when explaining graphs, diagrams, or experimental setups. It's important that what the narrator says matches what the viewers are seeing at the same time. Be sure to test on multiple devices. Test your video on various machines, including headphones, smartphones, laptops, televisions, and computer speakers. This will ensure the audio sounds good across different platforms, since you don't know how people will view the videos created by your students. Use advanced audio editing features in the advanced video editors like Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro. These tools include things like noise reduction, equalization, multi-track editing, which allows you to layer different sounds on top of each other, and to edit audio outside of your video editor. The most common tool is called Audacity. It allows you to trim, modify, or export audio files in a range of formats with precision. It is not always intuitive, but it is free and common, so there is plenty of support on the internet from other users, including lots of tutorials. Finally, be sure to gather feedback before finalizing. Get feedback from a few people to ensure the audio is effective and the message is clear. They might notice things that you've missed. By paying close attention to audio quality and synchronization, you can significantly enhance the effectiveness and professionalism of your science videos. When looking for additional content, you may want to use stock content. This is content that's already been created for other people to use. There are places online that make it easy to locate and use stock images, videos, and audio in a variety of formats, and on a range of topics. When using stock content, be sure to check what the usage rights are. They are listed on the website where you find the content. Some places to check for stock content include Pixabay, a popular site for finding stock images, videos, audio, and animation. It is free to use the site and search for content. However, each piece of stock content has its own usage restrictions. Some are completely free, and some are free for educational use. Still others are free if you cite them as a source, while some others require you to pay. This is a very good place to start looking for stock content. Adobe Stock is Adobe's version of Pixabay. While it contains images, videos, and animations that are high quality and useful in your videos, it requires a paid subscription to the Adobe Creative Suite, or for each stock file to be individually purchased. Check with your school to see if you have an account with access to Adobe Stock. Audionautics is a stock audio and music site with a range of content and prices. Students will probably enjoy spending time listening to all of the different options available. Another option is to use artificial intelligence tools for creating images. There are not yet any AI tools for creating video available to the general public. But consider Midjourney, ChatG, Gemini, and Copilot for generating images. You provide a description of what you want, and the software generates multiple attempts at your image using artificial intelligence. Let's compare some of the particularly popular tools. Gemini is free, but the least powerful and accurate of the group. Midjourney has a free version, but it is quite limited. However, the paid version is not that expensive, considering its capabilities, which are among the best available. Chat is more expensive, but includes other AI tools as well, and can be used to generate text, useful when writing your scripts. Finally, Microsoft Copilot is not as powerful as Midjourney or ChatGPT, but is rapidly being adopted by school districts because they package it with other software like Windows and Office. Your school may already have access to this tool, making it a convenient option for working with students. Like with stock image sites, check each of these websites to see what their rules are for crediting their content in your videos. Now that you have created a storyboard, written the script, shot all your content, and edited together into a finished video, it's time to publish your project. The specific process of exporting a video project will depend on the software you used, but they all have a way of turning your project into a single finished video file. Select the appropriate resolution, as outlined earlier in this video, and then choose the right video file type. The most common format is called MP4, and is usually the best option for your student projects. It is a good balance of quality and file size. It is also supported by nearly all video players, social media platforms, and software on your schooled computers. If you know the video will only be seen on Apple devices, you could consider using the QuickTime file format. This is a very high-quality format, but the files are larger and less video players are capable of using them. When you select the resolution and file type in your video editing program, it will likely estimate how big the video file will be on the computer. Consider the balance between quality and file size, especially if you're uploading the video to a platform with size limits. You will have to check the various platforms you use for their limitations. After you have created the video file, you have options for how to use or share it. Most files are probably going to be too large to email to people, and using SMS texting tools on your phone will significantly compress the video, lowering its quality. Once your students have created their videos, consider video hosting platforms to make them available to the public. By far, the world's most popular platform is YouTube. It is free to upload if you have a Google account, which many schools now provide to teachers and students for free. Built-in tools make it easy to configure the video and share it with other people, who can, in turn, easily access the video on almost any device. Once the video is shared, you can also make the video public for anyone to find, or you can mark it as restricted, which means people can only access it if they have the exact direct link that you provide them. This can be a good option for balancing student privacy with the need to circulate their content to appropriate audiences. Second to YouTube is another platform called Vimeo. It works similar to YouTube, but has less options for controlling the video. The service is generally aimed at more professional or artistic content, and has more limitations on what can be uploaded. However, it is a popular site, and uploading there is good if you're trying to spread the video far and wide. If your school has a Google subscription, Google Drive is a place to share large files. It is not specifically designed for videos, but it does a good job. If all you want to do is share the video with specific people, you can send them direct links, but, if necessary, even create a list of specific people allowed to access the video. This is good while working on drafts, when collaborating, or limiting sharing to just members of the class. If the goal is to spread the video so lots of people see it, then social media platforms are the way to go. If your students are minors, then a series of state and national laws likely apply to their access to social media sites, what they can share, and the complexities of having schools involved in the personal accounts of underage learners, who may not be able to legally agree to the terms of service on sites like Facebook or X. If you do decide to share on social media, then consider some of the more common ones. Facebook is typically for an older or more professional audience. This is a good option if you're targeting individuals or specific user groups on Facebook that have an interest in your video topic. X, formerly referred to as Twitter, is best for shorter videos that can be spread quickly by people who find the video interesting or useful. You will have less control over a video that is posted here. One platform that's particularly popular among young learners right now is TikTok. TikTok should not be used for a range of legal and educational reasons. It is murky at best whether students can and should share content on this platform if it comes from a school assignment or project. If you are going to use it for your own videos, then remember this platform is focused on very short, high-impact videos rather than something akin to documentaries. When allowing students to post videos on social media platforms, teachers should carefully consider several factors to ensure a safe educational and positive experience. Here are key points to think about. Understand the potential legal implications for the school and the teacher. Align with the school's social media and digital content policies. Ensure the content adheres to school guidelines and is appropriate for the intended audience. For younger students, ensure compliance with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA, and other relevant regulations. Ensure students are using age-appropriate platforms, as many social media sites have age restrictions. This typically requires them to be at least 13 years old. If your school requires, obtain written consent from parents or guardians before students post videos, especially if they involve identifiable personal information or images of the student. Consider whether the student's identities need to be protected. Encourage the use of pseudonyms or avatars, and avoid sharing any personal details. In general, you should ensure that location data is disabled on any videos posted to avoid revealing students' location for their privacy. Ensure the content has educational merit and aligns with the learning objectives. The video should be constructive and add value to the student's educational experience before you decide to let them share it on social media. With that in mind, consider the accessibility of the video content. Most platforms, but YouTube in particular, provide tools for creating captions, transcripts, or audio descriptions as needed to ensure all viewers can engage with the material. Your school might have its own internal learning community or sharing platform. Some schools allow students to share videos on Canvas, Blackboard, VidGrid, or a range of other school-specific tools. This is great for maintaining privacy for your students, but still allowing them to share with their peers. These require your school subscribe to a platform for you to make use of them. As you begin to plan the video projects you will do with your students, there are some approaches you can take and ideas to experiment with that might make the videos better, or the process more enjoyable. First of all, try experimenting with stop motion. If students have some time and want to do something creative, stop motion animation can be fun and make the video more interesting to watch. This involves taking a series of photos where a M model or toy is moved just a little bit at a time. The student will generate lots of individual photos. As the object is moved, that will be combined into an animation in the video editor software. When trying to explain a process or how a system works, consider using everyday objects as stand-ins or metaphors for the more complicated objects that would be expensive or dangerous to use in real life. Have students work on collaborative videos together. As with any teaching strategies, there are pros and cons, but the upshot is that dividing the work up across a team means the team can produce a higher quality video in a shorter amount of time. The process also allows them to practice teamwork and communication skills. Videos can be shot in two different orientations, landscape and portrait. Landscape is the wider view that most movies are traditionally shot in. This is almost always the best way to shoot a video and should be encouraged among your students. This will make videos work best on televisions, computers, and mobile devices. Portrait mode, where the video is taller than it is wide, has become somewhat popular on social media platforms, specifically intended to be viewed on a smartphone. While students may be used to seeing videos like this and think vertical videos are fun, they should be avoided in your class projects. Social media have shaped how younger people choose to consume video content. If your goal is to get a single point across in an engaging way, a younger audience will likely prefer a shorter, punchier video that gets right to the point. If you are looking for a more sophisticated explanation of a concept, especially for an adult audience, videos can be longer and employ more subtle video strategies. Working with your students to create videos is a great way for them to learn about STEM concepts and help them spread that information to others. While the process of creating videos with students can be tricky at times, it is ultimately worth the effort. The information outlined in this video is not comprehensive. No single source could be, but it should provide a scaffold for this type of project. Links to tools covered in this video will follow.